The movie starts with a quote from a boy named Paul talking about the future of Earth. It talks about a new planet called Red Moon that appears in the sky. Over time, people mine a material called lumina from it for energy. But one day, Red Moon changes course and heads straight for Earth. Only one astronaut is supposed to stop it, but he disappears right before the mission. Now grown-up Paul, guided by his childhood memories, sneaks into the slums where most people live. He sees how tough life is there. No rain for nearly 1,000 days, people struggling. He spots some police officers and a scout robot and asks a guy for help finding a taxi. The guy takes him to his workshop and offers him an old car that floats on a cushion of gravity. The man is surprised because crossing into the slums is rare, and he thinks Paul did it for a girl. Paul doesn't correct him and agrees to pay for the car. While Paul is inspecting his new car and checking the charge, a scout robot tracks him down. But before the police arrive at the workshop, Paul manages to escape. Driving through the desolate desert, he hears a radio broadcast about the astronaut's disappearance, echoing his inner voice from childhood urging him to find a mysterious forest depicted in an ancient drawing. Suddenly, Paul's car breaks down, needing a new Lumina battery. Out of nowhere, a scout robot appears. Paul tries to shoot it with a pistol, but his hands shake and he misses. Then, a man injects a drug into Paul's wrist, helping him aim better and knocking down the scout with the next shot. Paul has to push his car to a nearby shop in the middle of the desert. He hears upbeat advertisements for Lumina promising abundant energy for years to come. Passing by a drunk man, Paul enters the shop and finds a teenage girl behind the counter. Alma suggests ordering a battery delivery, but it'll take a while. Paul, left with no other option, watches a news report stating that his escape led to his brother Elliot taking on the mission to destroy Red Moon. Their father, Henry, who founded the Space Goods Corporation, initiated the project. Elliot's attempt fails as his ship disappears in the magnetic field, losing all signals. Feeling distraught, Paul recalls a childhood memory of his mother's deathbed scene. He remembers running out into the street and getting struck by lightning. He wakes up in his car, his hands trembling. His inner voice advises against using the medicine that helped him before, suggesting their father might be mistaken. Meanwhile, Elma tries to distract herself from the approaching storm by turning on music and dancing alone in her room. Later, she develops photos of her mother. Suddenly, Elma hears a TV announcement about the search for Paul, who prove it's possible to manually overcome the magnetic field of Red Moon. She starts packing her things, but her father stops her, fearing for her safety in the dangerous surroundings. Meanwhile, two children discover a capsule in the desert with a bloody but alive Elliot inside. However, when Elliot wakes up, his pupils are different. Elmo approaches Paul and asks him to take her with him, but he refuses. Disheartened, she returns to her trailer. Elliot is examined, revealing that the magnetic field of Red Moon altered his DNA and seemingly brought him back to life. Henry, their father, tries to console Elliot, blaming himself for the mission's failure. Suddenly, Elliot recalls a memory of the last days spent with their mother. He used to climb a rock, look at the sea, and wonder if jumping down would heal his mother. However, he never had the courage to do it. One day, Paul arrives at the rock, smiling and promising to save their mother. He jumps into the water himself, determined to fulfill his promise and find his brother. Meanwhile, the police catch up to Paul. Elma watches as he hides in an old bathtub and evades capture. Elma's father, fueled by resentment, sets her trailer on fire after finding a photo of his estranged wife. The next day, Elliot arrives at their gas station, but the father denies seeing him. Paul, witnessing this, secretly removes a battery from his car for his brother. Elliot seems to pierce into the soul of the gas station owner, making him confront the pain he's caused. Elliot suggests that the man has suffered enough, and his final actions seem to support this statement as he tragically takes his own life. Seeing her father's death from the window, Elma flees, discovering the missing battery. Elliot sends a small scout robot after her. Exhausted, Elma sits by the roadside where Paul finds her and takes her with him. Meanwhile, the courier with the Lumina battery ordered by Paul finally arrives at the store. Elliot takes it and sets off in pursuit. Later in the desert, Paul tries to ditch Elma again, but she blackmails him into taking her, promising to help find the forest. Paul recalls his past dreams of his mother trying to communicate something to him. It's not the first time Paul's father scolds him, warning about the dangers of illusions. Paul then confides in his brother, revealing that he also appears in his dreams, but in a much older and seemingly deceased form. As they reach a checkpoint, their car is controlled externally and stopped by police. Elma takes the wheel, and they deceive the guard, allowing them to pass. Later, at a roadside cafe, Paul calls his father, arguing that Red Moon should not be destroyed and that sending his brother there was a mistake as he seemingly died. Henry denies this, explaining that he tried to save their mother, but she chose inaction, leading to her demise. The conversation is cut short by the police's arrival. Paul gets into a fight and is nearly killed, but Elma rescues him. As they flee, Elma reflects on the horror she witnessed, and Paul shares his childhood visions of the future when Red Moon appeared and Lumina mining began. Paul knew something was amiss but couldn't articulate why. Later, he conducted research and discovered that the mysterious planet had appeared before, each time bringing about significant changes on Earth, almost like a rebirth. He shared his findings with his father, arguing that it's best to leave the planet alone. In response, Henry ordered Paul to take the medicine again, but Paul, determined, throws away the syringe. Discussing Red Moon with Elma, Paul believes it reacts to human actions, responding to evil with evil. Meanwhile, Elliot appears in the cafe, convincing the owner to move on from her lost husband and start anew. Paul shows Elma a drawing of the forest, explaining that it's the last remnant of his visions. He believes that reaching it might provide answers. They go to sleep unaware of a robot that has infiltrated their car. The next morning, Elma admits that she initially turned Paul in for a reward, but she changed her mind after he agreed to take her with him. Nevertheless, Paul allows Elma to accompany him on their journey. Soon, they notice they're being pursued by Elliot. Trying to evade him, Paul drives into a dust storm. With the help of detecting and destroying a spy robot, Paul and Elma manage to escape. Eventually, they reach an old cinema where they watch a film depicting Earth's past natural beauty. Elma is captivated by the spectacle, struggling to believe such beauty once existed. Suddenly, Paul is stunned as he recognizes a scene from the film that matches the forest from his childhood visions. It makes him question his sanity, wondering if he's merely longing for an imaginary picture. As Elliot, accompanied by the police, catches up with them, Paul wakes Elma and devises a plan to pretend she's a hostage to escape. However, the plan goes awry and Elma is wounded in the chaos. Despite her injury, she takes control of the car and orders Paul to drive, but Elliot continues the pursuit, leading to a dramatic chase into the clouds. In a moment of desperation, Paul crashes the car, seeing Elma lying injured on the ground with Elliot standing over her. Elliot reveals that only Paul can destroy Red Moon and their father, Henry, will make him do it. To save Elma, Paul must sacrifice himself. With a heavy heart, Paul points the gun at his own temple, but at the last moment turns it on Elliot, unable to bear losing Elma. Overcome with grief, Paul takes Elma to a nearby lighthouse by the dried-up sea, where they once lived as a family and where their mother passed away. At the base of her cross, Paul finds an album containing his childhood drawings depicting his visions. Realizing he can no longer run away, he decides to return to the space base of Red Moon. Henry meets him there while medical assistance takes the injured Elma away for care. Paul boards the spaceship and heads towards Red Moon. As he approaches, he switches to manual control and successfully overcomes the planet's magnetic field. However, instead of destroying Red Moon, he initiates the destruction of his own ship. Meanwhile, Elma looks through Paul's childhood drawings, which portray the events of their journey, including a smiley face sticker she gave to Paul when they first met via video link. Paul bids farewell to his father before his ship explodes before reaching Red Moon. On Earth, the first rain in many years falls with Elma standing beneath it. And with that, the movie concludes. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon if you like the recap. It supports us.